with another video. And today we're gonna be talking about the housing crash that's coming. And why? Because it's coming and you need to be prepared for it. And I found this interesting video and I wanted y'all to take a look at it. And so, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna roll a clip and we're gonna see what's going on. So here we go.
Is your city currently a buyer's market or a seller's market? That's a really important question to answer here in August 2021. If you're a prospective home buyer, investor, or seller, you want to understand what the dynamics are in your city and how they compare to the rest of the country. So what I'm going to do in this video is give you guys some key data, some key insights, fresh off the presses from Realtor.com. We're going to cover the 100 largest metro areas in America and look at how inventory and listings have changed year over year. Quite simply, some cities are still a huge seller's market. Inventory is very tight. Other cities, though, are turning into big buyer's markets, actually. And there's one city in particular which is on the doorstep of a housing crash.
And we're also going to go back and we're going to react and we're going to see if we can find some of these cities and see if they have crashed or if they haven't yet. So we'll keep taking a look at this.
The second thing I'm going to do in this video is show you why you need to be following that city and caring about that city that's on the doorstep of a housing crash, because it will be the leader, the predictor, the bellwether of what's going to happen in the U.S. housing market everywhere else. So even if you don't live in the city, the one city that's on the doorstep of a crash, you need to be paying attention to it, because when that crash hits that city, it's coming for your city next, just in the next 3 to 6 months. All right, guys, let's get into the data on this one. I know a lot of you prospective home buyers, prospective investors, prospective sellers, you're going to want this data, so let's get into it. We need to start things off by looking at this map, which is showing the 100 largest metro areas in America, and it's showing them based on a very key indicator, a very key data point that you all need to be tracking if you're a prospective buyer, investor, or seller in your specific market. You need to be understanding this data point, and that's the percentage change in inventory on the market. And inventory is super important to track, right? And obviously, the lower the inventory and the more constricted inventory is, the more prices go up and the more of a seller's market it is. The more that inventory goes up and gets higher and gets more homes on the market, the more it becomes a buyer's market. And so I'm sure you guys have noticed through me talking here is that there's very different color coding on these cities. Some are deep red, others are deep yellow. What does that mean? Well, ones that are deep red have had big declines in inventory year over year through the end of July. For instance, a place like Charleston, South Carolina, has seen a 56% decline in active listings year over year. That means Charleston is still very fiercely a seller's market, and there's very little inventory out there, probably lots of bidding wars, probably lots of over-ask situations.
It's really interesting that you see a whole bunch of people like moving to the South, but I still think that had, especially at this time, had a lot to do with, the pandemic still starting to end and, people wanting to stay away from the cities because people still thinking they could work from home.
Another one would be Northport, Sarasota, Florida, a 69% decline in inventory year over year. And what you can really see is that pretty much everywhere in the Southeast is like this, is in deep red. If we were to go to Tampa, if we were to go to Orlando, if we were to go to Nashville, if we were to go to Raleigh, where we've seen a 64% decline in inventory in Raleigh. So what this map and data is saying is that the southeast part of the U.S. is still very much in a frenzied, mania-driven segment of its housing market cycle. And that if you're a buyer in the southeast right now, it's very difficult for you. But now, of course, not all parts of the country are red. Some are yellow. And what does yellow mean? Well, yellow means that there's actually an increase in listings and inventory on the market year over year through the end of July. One such place is Washington, D.C. There's actually a 14% increase in listings year over year in D.C., which indicates the market is softening, becoming more of a buyer's market. Another place would be Akron, Ohio. Another place will be Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But really what I want to point you to is the West Coast. You can see here that there's some yellow in California. A place like San Diego is actually seeing a 5% increase in inventory year over year. So San Diego, which was a very hot market, is starting to see more listings. Fresno is starting to see more listings, and Stockton is starting to see more listings. But really, no market in America is seeing the type of inventory surge that Boise, Idaho is. Or I should say Boise. There's no Z in it, apparently.
I mean, who lives in Idaho? We'll keep going.
It's not Boise, it's Boise. Boise. 34% increase in active listings year over year. An absolutely massive surge in inventory through late July 2021 compared to late July 2020. No other market is even close to what's going on in Boise. So if you guys are enjoying the data presented in this video and you want to see more of it going forward, just hit that like button. When you do that, it feeds YouTube's algorithm, gets me some more views, and actually allows me to produce more of this content going forward. I actually went from doing 2 videos per week to 3, all because of the support that you have given me on this channel. Additionally, leave a comment. I want to hear what you are seeing in your respond and let you know. Get back to it. It means that more broadly, most markets across the US are actually in an inventory reduction or decline year over year. So most markets have become more of a seller's market over the last year. In fact, the average metro in the US.
I'm trying to find a map like that. I should have prepared this before I came, but I'm trying to see where the hottest the maps are, like something similar to that. Maybe he has one in the description. I'll check.
Has seen a 25% decline in listings year over year. And what do those big reductions in inventory mean? Well, it means that prices are still going up across the US in most places. And not only are they going up, they're going up very, very fast. In fact, faster than they ever have gone up on a month-to-month basis. I think a lot of people actually aren't really.
All right, let's do this. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna see if I can share this with my laptop, and then we'll go and take a look, because this is a more updated sending. It's a more updated map of what's going on in 2022 right now. So let's see. So that saying Manchester is still like really, really high. Let me see if I can find some of the areas that are cooling down. This map's kind of hard to read. I already know. All right, I'm gonna let him keep talking, and I'm gonna keep looking, because let me see. Maybe he has the map in his bio. That's what I wanted to do. Data. All right, I'll let him keep talking, and then I'll figure out how to.
Realizing this, that the US housing market right now is in uncharted territory with how fast home prices are growing. And you can see what I'm talking about on this graph, which is showing the month-over-month increase in home prices in America over the last 25 years. And this is data that comes from Zillow. And the first thing that jumps off the page is, oh my God, home prices are just shooting through the roof over the last year. I mean, we went from being like historically around 3 or 4% increase per month to now we're up to 2.2% increase month over month in America in June. That's by far the highest level ever, as are the last couple months. May was plus 1.7%. April was plus 1.5%. Even in the frenzied time of 2004, 2005, 2006, we never even got close to the levels of appreciation that we're seeing across America today. And that's going to stop you in your tracks a little bit, right? I think a lot of people know that home prices are booming in the US right now, but I don't think a lot of people know that the month-over-month appreciation that the US is seeing in the last 6 months is double what it was in 2005. Now, why is it double what it was? Well, as I said, active inventory. When active inventory declines so much, you're going to see a big uptick in prices. And even though inventory was low in these periods in 04, 05, it still wasn't quite as low as it is over the last 6 months. And that's one of the reasons why you're seeing prices go up.
So now fast forward to today, more inventory starting to come on the market. I don't remember the name of there was one big company that was buying a whole bunch of properties, and then I want to say they just let about $300 million worth of property back on the market. So the thing about it, what's going on right now, is that people, like I'm living in a house where the man is trying to sell it, and and I live in New York, and all around my area, because obviously, I mean, we were thinking about buying this house. Probably not, because he just dropped the price $50,000, and then we're on Zillow's, like, because I wasn't really actively looking to buy a house, but I was tired of moving, and my wife's tired of moving. Besides the point, but every place around this area is starting to drop the price, and I want to say that's because like the interest rate for mortgages are going back up, so people aren't trying to spend, like, let's just say if you wanted to buy a house for $1.5 million at 3% interest rate, it was probably like, I can't remember off the top of my head, maybe like 8-9 grand. But now at 6%, it'll probably be like 11. And that's a big difference. So now we're starting to see a whole bunch of houses come on the market. And even though, if we continue and this recession comes and people start to lose their job, then that's going to be less people that are able to buy houses, and people are going to stop spending. And when those people stop spending, that means like the people in the middle class, hours will be cut, because there isn't, I mean, I was listening to financial education about the other day, and he went out in Vegas and he was in the mall, and he was just saying that no one is buying anything. Like, he's in the mall, people are in the mall, but there's no shopping bags compared to fast forward what he was saying like a year ago. So basically, if Louis Vuitton doesn't have the salespeople to come in to spend all of this money, then they're gonna start cutting hours, and if hours are getting cut, it's just gonna trickle back up to the top, which is gonna cause the recession. So I believe that the houses, they still have to come down. They started coming down in my area. So we'll continue and see what else he's talking about, and we'll go from there.
So much in America to plus 2.2% month over month. I mean, that's wild. That's what, a lot of...
source Zillow's. Let me see if I can find that. Zillow's. Let me see if I could Google that. Zillow's. ZHVI. All right, cool.
Metros would do year over year in normal times, but now the U.S. is doing that in a month. Now, the $1 million question for all of you out there who are looking to buy a home or investment property, or all of you who are debating whether to pull the trigger and list your home for sale, the $1 million question is, what's going to happen to home prices over the next 6 to 12 months in America? And where are they going to go? But to properly answer this question more generally across the U.S., we need to zoom back in now on specific markets, because actually different markets are on very different schedules, very different timelines in terms of their appreciation, and then in terms of their inventory increase and their inventory decrease. And understanding this timeline for your city is imperative for you to make the right decision about whether now is the time to buy or to wait. And so let's look at home price month over month appreciation again, but we're going to look at two specific cities. We're going to look at Boise, Idaho, and Raleigh, North Carolina. And so that's what we're looking at here on this graph. Boise is the yellow line, Raleigh is the blue line, and we're looking at month over month change in home prices going back 25 years. Once again, this is data that comes from Zillow. And what you can see is that just like the US average, both Boise and Raleigh are blowing the doors off. They're absolutely blowing the door.
I wonder if he made this chart. I want to say he made this chart. I don't know. I can't find it. If y'all can find it, drop it in the chat.
Off their previous performance. Never before has either market ever achieved appreciation like they're currently achieving. But what I really want to point you to, and what I really want you guys to pay attention to, is the gap between these two lines, and specifically the gap that's developed over the last year. So let's zoom in a little bit, which is what we're doing now. We're zooming in over the last 5 years. And what I want you to pay attention to is when Boise's home price growth really starts taking off. September of 2020, October, November, December, January, February, March. Now we're all the way up to 4.5% month over month increases in Boise. But really it was the fall, the late summer into fall of last year, where home prices in Boise really started going. In Raleigh, though, it wasn't quite the same. Raleigh was still fairly muted in its home price appreciation, and it really wasn't until the last couple months where we've seen crazy levels of growth. So for instance, in June, Raleigh is up 2.6% month over month. Boise was at that level in November. So there's about a 6 to 7 month lag in terms of where Raleigh is going compared to what Boise is going. And for those of you who might not live in Raleigh, what I want you to think of is that Raleigh here is kind of representative of all of those metros in the southeast that we looked at. Tampa, Charleston, Orlando, Nashville. Raleigh is kind of representative of them in that it wasn't really until the last 3 or 4 months when the housing market took off in these cities, but it took off in Boise back in the fall. So why am I paying so much attention to Boise here? I mean, it's a small metro. A lot of you might not even know where it is. You can point it out on a map. But it's extremely important to understand what Boise's doing if you want to understand what the U.S. housing market is going to be doing in 6 months. Because in the way that Boise was ahead of Raleigh by 6 months in appreciation, it's going to be ahead of the rest of America by 6 months in terms of depreciation and in terms of having a crash. The crash is going to show up in Boise first. It's going to show up in the next couple months.
Damn, I wish I remembered where he put Boise at, because, all right, I think I found somewhat of a map that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to pull this up and see what y'all think, because he said Boise, Idaho, and we will go from there. I'm surprised they didn't try to hit you with the... Okay, so this chart says the odds of, and this is May 2022, so this information is a little more up to date. The odds of regional home prices dropping over the coming years. And as you can see, this is really all I'm concerned with, which is New York, because everywhere else is not my problem. I think Boise was, I'm a little special. All right. Oh, here it is. Okay, so it's still saying that it's really hot, that it's going to fall. So Boise City, Idaho. But Fortune.com is saying that, am I going to read this? Not really. 50-70% chance that Boise, Idaho is going to drop. So for wherever you guys are at, I mean, you can kind of pick. I'll move around this a little bit. But I feel like most of the things we should be worried about is the reds. And I don't think I know anybody that lives in these areas. So it's a little frustrating. I was hoping to see more red, but you know. Oh, well, this is Jersey though. Let me see. Where's this? Bridgeport. That's not too far from New York. I feel like if some of these areas, they start to fall, I mean, others are going to fall. And I think they all kind of try to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So we'll see.
As the rest of America is still increasing its home prices. And so you're going to see national home price data still looking strong in July, August, September, October. But you're going to see certain cracks in the ship in certain markets like Boise, where prices are going to start going down. And those price declines are going to be predictive of what's going to occur in the rest of America going forward. And that's why Boise needs and deserves your attention, even if you're somewhere halfway across the U.S. Because what happens in Boise is going to happen everywhere else just 6 months later. If you want more proof, let's take a look at inventory. So what we're looking at on this graph is the year-over-year change in active inventory in Boise, the yellow line, in Raleigh, the blue line, over the last couple years. What I really want to point you to is the decline in inventory that Boise had starting in the summer of last year, but really, in the late summer into the fall, when by, let's just say, November in Boise, inventory was down by 75% year over year, which is absolutely crazy. Since then, inventory flatlined, and then in Boise, it has shot up like a rocket. And inventory in Boise is going to keep skyrocketing over the next couple months as more and more delayed listers come to market, as more and more buyers go on buyer strike, as more and more people leave the city because it's gotten so expensive. Inventory is going to keep going up, keep going up, keep going up, and eventually prices are going to go down. But we can see again, Raleigh is on this delayed timeline where Raleigh got to the same levels of kind of inventory reduction, minus 74%, minus 74% inventory year over year. But whereas Boise hit that in November, Raleigh hit that in April. So again, there's a 5-6 month lag in how inventory is behaving in Raleigh compared to how it's behaving in Boise. And you can bet your britches that inventory in Raleigh will shortly follow the same example set by Boise, and in the next 3, 4, 5 months, we're going to see this blue line rocket up as well. And I want you all to remember this, particularly if you're in a Southeast market right now that's really, really tight and really, really a seller's market. If you're in Raleigh or Charleston or Nashville or Tampa and Miami and you're really feeling the squeeze and you're feeling like things are hopeless and like there's never going to be more inventory and that there's just so many people moving to this city and that the housing market will never get better, just think about Boise. Think about what happened in Boise, which, by the way, is actually the #1 job growth and #1 migration metro in America. That's right. Boise grows jobs and it grows inward migration more than any other city in the U.S. And despite all of that inward demand, inventory is taking off like a rocket. So here's where the rubber meets the road in trying to understand how this is going to convert.
I think I found something else that's interesting too, because this is I just forgot where did I get this link from. So this other link came from this also came from Fortune, and it's basically gonna show you here, let's do this, how fast your local housing market is cooling amidst the great deceleration as told by two interactive charts. I did the same thing twice. So let's see. I did that twice. My bad. And this froze. Stupid thing. Why isn't this letting me move it? Oh, here we go. How much inventory levels have shifted over the past 6 weeks from March 26, 2022 to May 7th? And obviously this is a little bit more updated. And you know where we're going first. We're going to New York because that's where I'm at. So it's up 8.8% over here. I mean, Florida, this is where he was talking about, and his video was in August 2021. And now those same areas, Naples, that's where I used to live, is 22%, 17%. It's a lot of houses in this Florida area coming on the market. I mean, you can see almost everything is in the green. You got some parts of Texas that's in the red, 8.3. But I mean, none of these are the popular cities. Let's see, Orlando. Was that Orlando? Oh, sorry, that was North Carolina. Goldsboro, North Carolina. I don't know where that's at. Actually, Farmingdale, and everywhere, all over this whole city. I mean, this whole U.S. is mostly red. I mean, excuse me, it's mostly blue. So you can see there's definitely a big shift coming. Let me see. What was the other chart? Oh, okay. How much inventory levels have shifted over the past 3 years? I mean, everything is pretty much in the red. So 57%. Lord Jesus. But it's obviously coming back. So we got a couple more minutes of this gentleman, and we're gonna end it. So, well, cool.
Into a housing crash is that when home prices go up really, really fast, like the 2% per month in the US more broadly that we looked at, or the 3% in Raleigh, or the 4% in Boise, when they go up that fast, they are pricing people out of the market. More and more people are saying, hell no, I'm not buying a home right now. More and more people in certain cities are saying, I'm out, I'm moving to other cities. And it's naturally going to reduce the demand for homes. And as you reduce the demand for homes at sky-high prices relative to wages, that creates downside, and prices will go down. And if you find yourself skeptical of this for some reason, because I think a lot of you are skeptical that home prices are going to come down. I think it's like somehow etched into the DNA of us as Americans that the housing market is robust and it can't go down, and it's only gone down once before in history and it's not going to go down again. If you find yourself kind of with that attitude, which I get, just the thing to remember is, think about that graph I showed earlier with month over month home price growth in America, going up to 2.2% month over month in June 2021. Never before has it even been close to that level. The only other time in history it was ever close was 04, 05, 06, and prices came crashing down. The point being, when prices escalate and appreciate well above wages and well above economic expansion, it creates instability in the housing market, and it creates downside for prices. And eventually, prices are going to go down to meet the level dictated by wages and jobs in the economy. A lot of people refuse to accept this. A lot of people continue coming up with this time is different excuses. They say, oh, inflation this time is different and thus home prices are going to go up. They say, oh, this time we don't have subprime mortgages, so home prices are going to keep going up. All of that is garbage. The thing that matters is the relationship between prices, wages, and jobs. And what that is pointing to is big downside in the housing market. It's going to happen in Boise first. It's going to happen in a place like Austin second. It's going to happen in the Southeast probably a little bit after that. But what I want you all to do is to stay on top of this data. I mean,
and we are. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, he wasn't wrong in August, and it's starting to happen. I think we're like in the middle of it. So for you guys that are interested in thinking about buying a house, I would sit tight for a little bit, see how this is going to play out, because I mean, obviously with the interest rate so high, it's not really affordable for you to take out a home loan it's just not. So anyway, that's all I got for y'all. Appreciate y'all rocking with me. Hit the like, comment,